Martin Heldring, 305 Audubon Avenue. I will be brief because I'm going to be interested in the conversation that takes place on the agenda item with regard to fund balance. I did want to make, though, just a couple of points without reiterating anything that's been said to date, at least with the exception of I was also shocked. I mean, we've become used to budget remainders, which is sort of a crazy term, but surpluses, that what surplus was not defined here. So for everyone's benefit here in the room and for anybody who's watching, surpluses or deficits are usually defined by revenues over expenses. If it's a positive number, it's a surplus. If it's a negative number, it's a deficit. If you look at column D on page 2, row 44, actual revenues are $82 million and change. If you look at column D, row 57, actual expenses are $78 million and change, almost 79. The difference there is the $3,207,000 that's been referred to. I don't know what else could be the surplus, referred to as a surplus, but I did find it curious at the top of page 2 on row 17, again column D, that the net growth in all of the fund balances was 3.1. Now in accounting you tend to balance things, and I would think that the surplus would flow into all funds. That's what that's called. And it's only $100,000 among friends, but I'm used to balancing and accounting to the penny. And so to me, the surplus is still at 3.2, but I think, again, this points out that it's very troubling that we still do not have a reconciliation of the fund balances. I would hope, and I can't imagine anyone going here, but since these on page 2, column D, row 20, 666,000 and change is highlighted on page 1. Column D again, row 25, 660,000 is highlighted. I would hope that no one would make an argument that that's the surplus, that either one of those numbers, because that argument, well, I'll be fascinated to hear it, but it's silly. I mean, there's just no basis for that whatsoever, and I can't think of a more descriptive word than silly. The other point I wanted to make was I think you need the taxpayer perspective on this. A year and a half ago, I sat here with others and argued that Mr. Armstrong's 3.21% tax increase was not really justified because I thought there was a looming surplus. People and others thought the same. I was not the only one. You argued against me and disagreed, and you passed the tax increase. And we ended up with a $4 million surplus. I then, in October, almost a year ago, I went back and looked at my comments, argued for a CARFAC, a committee similar to what the Township has, because it's been very good there, and I thought you needed it, desperately needed it. I was assured, no, you had the financial expertise, it was not necessary. I was convinced there were systemic surpluses that you were building in here, but I was assured not. Now we sit here a year later looking at a $3.2 million surplus. One of the arguments I made at the time as to why you would want a CARFAC was you could look at me right now and say, hey, we got all those guys over there helping us. I'm sorry, we listened to their advice. You could deflect responsibility. And I said to you, if you don't have CARFAC, I'm going to sit here and say, what happened? How did this happen again? And what are you, I asked last year, what are you doing to prevent it from happening this year? Apparently nothing. What are you doing to prevent it from happening next year? And lastly, several of you have run for office or are running for office on a platform of fiscal transparency, openness, integrity, and civility. I think I caught those 4 words, right? This is serious business. We're talking about $82 million here, and we should have a serious discussion about what's going on here. So I don't want to hear any kind of hyperbole, Mr. Armstrong, about the Titanic sinking or sucking blood from a patient. There is something seriously wrong with the financial reporting here and the systemic surpluses that are occurring now, at least in this 2 years in a row that I've been paying attention. You've got 15 minutes. I really hope, as a taxpayer, as a citizen, as just a reasonable person, that we have a serious conversation about this in a civil manner. Thank you.